Welcome back to the podcast Quote Quest, where we explore the intricate meaning of quotes that have the potential to change lives and unlock profound truths. We're changing it up a little bit today. We're doing a little face-to-face interaction, something new, all right? So let's dive right in. The quote that we're looking at today is by Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States. And this quote reads, "It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Roosevelt delivered this quote in a speech known as Citizenship of the Republic at the Sorbonne in Paris in 1910, and it is known today as Man in the Arena. He is essentially talking about the things that matter most in this world. It's not about the people who sit idly by and criticize others without actually engaging in the battlefield itself. He's talking about the value of the effort that one puts in to strive towards the goals that they're after, even in the face of possible failure or possible criticism or the possibility of being known as the odd one out. So let's break this down line by line. Roosevelt starts off by saying, "It is not the critic who counts." So right here, he's diminishing the value of the critic, someone who just criticizes, and he's emphasizing that there's more value in somebody who delivers action and who goes after their goals instead of just idle observation. The people that actually take action to make a difference and go after their goals in life are the people who, regardless of if they're recognized or not, are going to have an eternal impact on the course of humanity in some way, shape, or form, rather than those that sit by and do nothing but criticize. And this leads us on to the next part of this quote that reads, "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena." Again, this is shifting the value from the critic who sits idly by without engaging in the battle themselves to the person who is fighting the good fight and the person who is striving to live out their goals, their values, and their aspirations. Roosevelt is alluding to the fact that it's more important in life to be a trier, a doer, a go-getter, rather than someone that just goes along with the status quo or someone that just sits idly by and points fingers at others. So it almost sounds like those internet trolls out there aren't aligning too much with Roosevelt's mission here. But in all seriousness, I believe that most of us here can agree that going out there, doing the work, putting in the work to achieve your goals and having the impact that you want to have means more than somebody that just sits by and criticizes without even trying to do the thing that you're doing. Now, of course, I don't believe this discounts constructive criticism, because this kind of criticism can actually be what people need to hear sometimes, rather than just telling them what they want to hear. Constructive criticism and telling people the truth are extremely important, as they can yield transformational power to help someone change their lives and better themselves towards achieving what they want to achieve. It's the kind of criticism that comes from a place of jealousy, a place of bitterness, or a place of, I secretly wish that I was where this person's at, but I don't want to put in the work to actually get there. That's the kind of criticism that ultimately does not matter in the end. And that's the kind of criticism that Roosevelt is talking about here that ultimately does not matter. He then goes on to say, "Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood." This metaphorical imagery highlights the trials and the tribulations that it will take when striving for something worthwhile. Roosevelt is saying that to achieve greatness, a person must endure hardship to get there. The truth is, we live in a world where instant gratification is glorified and convenience is championed. Rarely is the grind ever talked about in depth, or the intricacies of the struggle that someone needs to go through in order to achieve that greatness. However, this is the truth that we will endure hard things in life, but the way you react to them will shape the course of your path. After this, he says, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again. In the pursuit of any significant goal or anything meaningful, failures are inevitable. Ever since you were a kid, you were subconsciously conditioned to believe that failure is a bad thing and it's something to run away from. When you received an F on a test, you knew that it was a bad thing and something to avoid, but were you ever taught that it was something to learn from and something to grow from? That is the outlook that you need to have when you look at failure. The truth is, you will fail, but these failures do not diminish your worth. In fact, Roosevelt is implying here that failure and perseverance through that failure are essential, noble, and a whole lot more meaningful than perfection or the cowardice to try. Which is why he says next, there is no effort without error or shortcoming. If you've never failed or you've never even tried, then honestly, where is the meaning in that? I think that might be why God decided to not make us perfect. Because if you think about it, if we were perfect at everything that we've tried or everything that we've done, then where's the meaning behind that, right? Everything would just become stagnant. Everything would mean the exact same. For example, if you're a tennis player and you're hitting your balls and everything, and you get, let's say you're a perfect tennis player, the most perfect tennis player in the world. Every shot that you hit, you make perfect contact with the ball, you got that perfect topspin on the ball, and you make the opponent miss every single time, right? Let's say you could do that every single hit and the match would be over within however long a quick tennis match is considered. Well, honestly, where's the meaning behind that? Because there was no struggle that you had to overcome. There was nothing that you had to beat out or overcome to achieve the goal that you were trying to achieve, right? You needed to go through the practices and go through the routines, hundreds of times in order to be the kind of player that you want to be. You can't do that if you were always perfect, right? So being imperfect, it adds, value and meaning behind the things that we want to achieve. Honestly, I think we'd probably get bored pretty quickly if we were just perfect at everything. And of course, don't try something just to purposely fail at it and say, hey, look at me, guys, I'm failing, I'm so noble, like Roosevelt says. Oh, that would be a complete misinterpretation of what our guy Teddy is trying to say here. Now, come on. Roosevelt then goes on to say, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So this is just building off of striving for greatness. If you succeed, you get to reap the triumph of your valiant efforts. But if you fail, that is okay. It is all part of the process. I also believe Roosevelt implies here that there is more value in the journey from point A to point B, rather than just starting at point A and getting to point B. It's all about what happens in between that arrow. The triumphs, the failures, the struggles, the support from other people. There's more value in the journey rather than the destination. And we can absolutely do a separate podcast on that if you guys would like to see that. Roosevelt then wraps it up by saying, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Essentially, he's saying that there's more value in trying. There's more value in, achieving what you tried to do, or even failing at what you tried to do, rather than just maintaining status quo and not trying at all. And I believe this also ties into the concept of pain of discipline versus pain of regret. Choose the hard thing over the easy thing and watch your life transform. So that's all for today. Thank you all so much for listening. And if you have any feedback or any suggestions that you would like to see, then please let me know and go take on the day.